Welcome back, everybody. Today, we're diving into something I think you're going to find really exciting. We're going to learn how to start thinking in English.
Yeah.
And we got a guide for this deep dive.
Mm-hmm.
And it's full of easy steps you can use right away.
I love it.
No complicated stuff, I promise.
It's really great. What's neat about this guide is that it's made for people who are just starting their English journey.
Right.
It really breaks everything down into small little pieces.
Exactly. So the first step is all about starting small.
Mm.
And it's called step 1. Start with simple words and phrases.
Okay.
The guide says to look around you and name things in English, like this is a chair or the cat is sleeping. Really basic stuff, right?
Super simple, but here's why it's so powerful. You're training your brain to connect the English word directly to the thing that you see. You're not translating it in your head first.
Right.
It's like how babies learn language. They
Right.
just connect the word with the object.
That makes a lot of sense. Okay, then we move on to step 2. Speak short sentences to yourself.
Right.
The guide gives examples like, I am going to the store, or I am eating lunch.
Okay.
Short and sweet.
Yeah. And the guide says, don't worry about getting the grammar perfect at this stage.
Okay.
Just focus on making those sentences.
Right.
It's about getting comfortable speaking, not being perfect straight away.
That's reassuring, for sure. Now, step 4. Think in English before you sleep.
Interesting.
This one really caught my attention. Thinking in English before bed. That's a new one for me.
It might sound a little strange, but there's a good reason the guide suggests it. Thinking in English before you fall asleep might actually help you learn faster.
Oh.
Yeah.
Interesting.
It's like your brain is working on the language even when you are sleeping.
Wow.
The guide even says to try whispering the thoughts to yourself.
Okay.
It can help you feel more confident.
Wow, that's an interesting idea. It makes sense to give it a try. There's also step 6. Change your phone and apps to English.
Ooh, yeah.
That sounds like a simple way to get more exposure to the language.
Yeah. I mean, think about it. You're
Yeah.
basically surrounding yourself with English all the time. Your phone becomes a tool for learning
Ooh,
without you even noticing it.
that's clever.
Yeah.
Okay, and then we have step 9. Use a mind map or diary. The guide suggests writing down simple thoughts and plans in English.
Yeah.
Kind of like a to-do list, but in English.
Writing can help your brain remember things better. And even writing simple things in English can help you get used to thinking in that way. It's like exercise.
Yeah.
But for your English.
I'm really liking these practical tips. Let's move on to step 10. Practice daily consistency is key.
Okay.
It really emphasizes spending 15 to 20 minutes each day thinking and speaking only in English. Sounds like a commitment, right?
It is a commitment,
Yeah.
but that's where the real progress happens. This step pushes you to think directly in English without translating first.
Right.
And it really builds on that no translation rule from step 1.
Yeah.
The guide really wants you to practice thinking in English directly.
Right. The more you practice, the easier it gets. The guide even suggests making it a bit of a challenge. Try to slowly increase that practice time as you get better.
Exactly. It's like training for a marathon. You start with shorter distances and build up your stamina. The guide even says no translating is allowed during that 15-minute period.
Yeah.
That's how you really force your brain to switch to English mode.
I see how that would be effective.
Yeah.
Okay, let's look at the final tips for success. The guide says to be patient with yourself, start with small steps, and don't be afraid to make mistakes.
Yeah.
Sounds like good advice for anything in life.
What I love is that the guide says to enjoy the process.
Yeah.
It even suggests fun ways to practice, like watching TV shows in English, playing word games, or even just chatting with friends.
Yeah.
Learning a language shouldn't feel like a chore.
Absolutely. It's all about making it fun and engaging. Speaking of fun, there's also step 7. Use English while watching or listening.
Right.
So things like watching videos, listening to podcasts, or even just listening to songs in English can help, right?
Absolutely. It's about surrounding yourself with the language as much as you can.
Right.
The guide suggests starting with simple things like shows made for kids or podcasts for beginners.
That's a good place to start. I like how the guide makes things simple and easy to understand.
Yeah.
What stands out to me is how it encourages actively listening.
Uh-huh.
You know, like pausing a video and asking yourself,
Right.
what did they just say? What does that mean?
Yeah, it's about really paying attention to the language. And the guide even suggests repeating phrases from the shows to help you remember them.
Right.
It's like a mini practice session
Yeah.
while you're having fun.
I love that. Okay, let's look at step 8. Practice small English conversations daily. This one seems pretty straightforward. Just talk with yourself or a friend in English for a few minutes each day.
Yeah, it sounds simple, but it's really powerful. The more you speak, the faster your brain will learn to think in English. The guide even gives you some ideas for what to talk about, like, what did you do today? Or what's your favorite food?
Those are good conversation starters for sure. It's all about finding ways to use the language every single day.
The biggest takeaway here is that practice makes perfect.
Yeah.
But don't forget to have fun while you're learning.
Well said. This has been a great deep dive. I feel like I've learned so much about how to start thinking in English.
It's been fun exploring these steps with you.
Yeah.
Hopefully you're feeling inspired to try them out.
I am.
Good.
Don't worry.
That's what we want. Our listener is really getting the idea that practice is super important.
Yeah, it seems like consistency is key here. But the guide also talks about enjoying the process. I'm curious, do you think having fun actually helps you learn a language faster?
It absolutely does. When you're enjoying something, your brain is more active and engaged, and that makes it so much easier to learn new things, including a new language.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay, one of the final tips in the guide is to start small and be patient.
Yeah.
I think that's really great advice, and especially for something challenging like learning to think in a whole new language. What are your thoughts on that?
I completely agree. Trying to do too much too quickly can be overwhelming.
Right.
It's better to start with small goals, things that you can actually achieve and build up from there.
Right.
Just like learning anything new, you need to be patient with yourself and celebrate those little wins along the way.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
So if you were giving advice to someone who's just starting out with thinking in English, what would be your top tip?
My top tip would be to find ways to make it a part of your daily life.
Okay.
Don't think of it as like a separate task or a chore.
Right.
Instead, try to mix it into things you already like to do.
Could you give us some examples?
Absolutely. If you love watching movies, try watching one in English with the subtitles on. If you love music, listen to English songs and try to understand the lyrics. If you like reading, pick up a simple English book or even a children's book. The key is to find something you enjoy doing and make it a part of your routine.
Those are all great ideas. So we've covered a lot of ground today.
Yeah, we have.
From starting with simple words and phrases to practicing every day. This guide really gives you a map for how to learn to think in English.
It does. And the best part is that it's all about making it fun and something that you want to do. Speaking of making it fun, I have one final thought for our listener.
Right.
We talked about practicing every day. What if you made it even more specific? What if you actually set a specific time every day for practicing your English thinking? Like maybe just after you wake up or right before you go to sleep.
I think that's a great idea. Having a set time can really help you stay consistent. It just becomes a part of your routine. Brushing your teeth or have your first cup of coffee.
Exactly. And by picking a time that's already part of what you do each day, it doesn't feel as hard and it's easier to fit in.
So for anyone listening who is ready to dive in and start thinking in English, I say go for it. Pick one or two tips from this guide that really speak to you and start practicing today.
I love it.
Yeah.
This deep dive has been so helpful. We've learned so many great tips and strategies that anyone can use to start thinking in English.
And remember, it's a journey, not a race. Be patient with yourself. Enjoy the process. And celebrate all those little victories along the way.
I love that. So what stood out to you most from all these steps? What really clicked?
For me, it's making it fun, you know? And part of everyday life. Like, it shouldn't feel like a chore or something you have to force yourself to do. It should be about finding those ways to make learning English something you enjoy and naturally do each day. Yeah, that's a great point. It's about making it sustainable, right? Like something you can actually keep up. And that no translation rule, I think that's really key too. It really encourages you to think in English right from the start.
Totally. And you know what else I love? How this guide lets you figure out what works best for you. Like whether it's watching movies or listening to music or chatting with friends, it's all about making learning English your own thing.
Speaking of making it your own, I have one final thought for you, our listener. We talked about picking a specific time each day to think in English, but what about making it even more personal? Like, what if you combine it with something you already love to do?
Oh, that's such a cool idea. It could be anything. Your morning walk, your commute to work, even just your time cooking dinner. By pairing it with something you're already doing, it just flows and becomes a natural part of your day.
Exactly. And who knows, maybe you'll even find yourself looking forward to that English thinking time. So why not give at least one of these techniques a shot today? Pick one that feels right to you and just see how it goes.
Love it. And remember, even small steps can make a big difference. The most important thing is just starting somewhere and keeping at it. It's a journey, this whole thinking in English thing, not a race.
Well said. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive. We hope it's given you some good stuff to work with and inspired you to start thinking in English, feeling confident and ready to go. Until next time, happy learning. Hey everyone, welcome back for another deep dive. Today we're tackling something that I think a lot of you will find really useful.
Absolutely. We're looking at some basic English conversation skills.
Yeah, and we've got a fantastic guide here that's designed specifically for beginner English learners.
And it's packed with real-life dialogue examples, so it's super practical.
I was really impressed with how practical it is. So let's dive right into it, okay? Right off the bat, the guide starts with greetings.
Oh, yeah, gotta start somewhere, right?
Exactly. So it gives us this example. Hi, my name is Rahul. What's your name? Super simple, right?
Yeah, straightforward and friendly.
Totally. But what I really like is that it breaks it down even further.
Oh, you mean explaining each individual word and the purpose?
Yeah. It points out that hi and hello are ways to say hello, which seems obvious.
But for someone just starting out, that little bit of extra explanation can be really helpful.
Right. And then it goes on to say that nice to meet you is a way to express, that you're happy to meet someone new.
That's so important. And I think sometimes things that seem so basic to us as, more experienced English speakers, they can actually be kind of tricky for new learners. It's really all about understanding the why behind the words.
I totally agree. And the guide even has this practice tip where it suggests saying the entire conversation out loud.
Oh, that's a great idea.
Yeah, and they even encourage you to, replace Rahul and Priya with your own name and, really personalize it.
Yeah, because it's about making it real, right? And talking out loud, even if you're by yourself, that's how you actually get better at speaking.
Exactly. Practice is key, no matter what you're learning.
It really is. Think about learning a new song. You wouldn't just read the lyrics, you'd sing it over and over again.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
All right, so moving on. Let's imagine a scenario where you're lost. What do?
Ask for directions.
Exactly. The guide gives us this example. Excuse me, can you help me? I'm looking for the nearest coffee shop. Do you know where it is?
Perfect. So polite, it highlights the importance of being polite when you ask for help, using phrases like, excuse me, and can you help me?
And it even explains that nearest means closest, just in case that word isn't familiar.
Every little bit helps.
And then, of course, they provide a classic direction. Just around the corner, walk straight, and turn left.
I swear I've heard that direction a million times.
Who hasn't, right? But it's a phrase that you can use in so many different places and situations.
Absolutely. And it shows just how important it is to, learn those basic directional words like left, right, straight.
For sure. And what I really liked is that the guide suggests practicing this with different places instead of just a coffee shop.
Oh, so train station or hospital.
Yeah, places that are important to find, especially if you're in a new place.
Totally. I mean, the goal is to be able to use these phrases in your actual life, not just in a textbook.
100%. Speaking of places, let's head over to a restaurant.
Ooh, my favorite.
Right. Now, how do you order food? Well, the guide walks us through it. It starts with the waiter saying, "Good evening. Are you ready to order?"
Ah, so it sets the scene, which I think is really helpful for a new learner.
Right. It's not just about the words themselves. It's about, when and where to use them.
Exactly. Context is key.
So the customer then says, "Yes, I'll have a pizza and a Coke, please." Straightforward and simple. The phrase, "I'll have." That's your go-to when ordering.
I love that they point that out because it's so useful. It immediately lets the waiter know you're ready to order. And then there's the "that's all for now," which for a new learner can be super helpful.
Oh, for sure. Prevents any accidental over-ordering. But
yeah.
Hey, maybe you're feeling extra hungry.
Right. And you know what I really like is that the guide encourages you to practice with your own favorite foods.
Oh, totally. What would you order?
Let's see. I'd probably go with, I'll have a big salad and some water, please.
Sounds delicious and healthy.
Gotta stay balanced,
Absolutely. Okay, so now let's talk about shopping. Who doesn't love a little retail therapy?
Guilty as charged.
Same here. All right, so the example conversation starts with, hello, how can I help you? Pretty standard, right?
Oh, yeah. You hear that in stores all the time. It's their way of signaling that they're ready to assist you.
And then the customer says, I'm looking for a white t-shirt. Do you have one? Simple and clear.
It's perfect for demonstrating how to, express your needs. You say what you're looking for and then inquire if they have it.
And then the shop assistant asks, what size do you need? Important question because sizes can vary, from country to country.
Oh, absolutely. And it's another example of the guide introducing new vocabulary. It also touches on paying with cash or card, which is super practical.
So I agree. It's all about building those foundational blocks. And, you can practice this with items you buy frequently.
Oh, I love that. Personalize the practice.
Right. Like for me, it'd be, I'm looking for a new book. Do you have any good recommendations? Easy peasy.
That's great. All right, now let's shift gears a bit and talk about going to the doctor.
Okay, so this one's important. The example starts with the doctor saying, hello, what brings you here today?
Super common way for a doctor to start an appointment. It's basically their way of asking, why are you here?
And the patient replies, I'm not feeling well. I have a fever and a headache. Short, simple, to the point. It's crucial to be able to communicate your symptoms.
And I like how the guide explains that symptoms are the things that show you are sick, like a fever or a headache.
Right. So you understand the terminology.
Right.
Then the doctor says, okay, let me check your temperature. You have a mild fever. I'll prescribe some medicine. Prescribe meaning to, tell you what medicine to take.
And that's another word that's super important, especially if you're in a new country and need to see a doctor.
100%. The guide even suggests practicing with other common ailments like a stomach ache or a cough.
I mean, nobody wants to be sick, but it's definitely good to be prepared.
For sure. If you know the right words, it makes talking to the doctor that much easier.
Absolutely. Even if you don't feel well, at least you can communicate effectively.
Exactly. Okay, so onto a more lighthearted topic. How about chatting with friends?
Much better than being sick.
I agree. So the guide kicks things off with, hey, how's it going? Very casual, very friendly.
Yeah, it's a perfect greeting for friends or people you know well.
And the response, hi, I'm good, thanks. What about you? Classic small talk, but essential for building conversations.
It's just a polite back and forth. You answer, say how you are, and then show interest in the other person.
And then they go on to ask, what are you up to these days? Which is like the go-to question for casual conversations.
It's an open-ended question, which keeps the conversation flowing and gives you some insight into what the other person's been doing.
And of course, you can't forget the good old, let's catch up sometime.
Ah, yes, the classic suggestion for future plans.
Exactly. So the guide suggests practicing this with friends, or even, get this, talking to yourself in the mirror.
Hey, whatever works. Sometimes you just gotta talk it out.
Right. Practice makes perfect. All right, so, wow, we covered a lot of ground here.
We really did. We started with simple greetings and went all the way to, talking to doctors and friends.
This guide is a fantastic resource for anyone looking to build those essential English conversation skills.
Totally. It's all about practical, everyday English, and it gives you the tools to practice and actually get better at speaking.
And remember, it's all about using what you've learned. Don't be afraid to try these phrases out in real conversations.
Exactly. Don't worry about being perfect. Just try your best and have fun with it.
Absolutely. Mistakes happen. It's part of the learning process.
And that's actually a great point to jump off from because what we talked about today, it's really just the tip of the iceberg.
Oh, for sure. There are so many more ways to use English in your daily life. So think about it. What other situations do you want to learn about? The places you go, the people you meet.
Maybe it's how to talk at work, how to navigate a party, or even just have those deeper conversations with English-speaking friends.
There's always something new to learn, and you know what? It's never too late to start.
Couldn't agree more. And there's so many resources out there like teachers, online classes. You can even find language partners.
A language partner is basically someone who speaks English and wants to learn your language. You help each other out. It's a great way to practice.
Absolutely. So don't be shy. The more you practice, the better you'll get.
Exactly. Even small steps add up over time. Keep talking, keep listening, and keep learning. And most importantly, have fun while you're doing it.
That's the key. Learning a new language should be an enjoyable journey.
It really should be. All right, so that's all for today's deep dive, but don't worry, we'll be back next week with a brand new topic.
Until then, happy learning, everyone.
See you next time.
All right, so let's say you're planning a trip to a new city. How do you get there?
Well, you got to book a ticket, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And the guide actually walks us through that process.
Yeah, it's super helpful. It covers like train tickets, bus tickets, even plane tickets.
It starts with the traveler saying, "Hello, I'd like to book a ticket to Delhi." Straightforward, right?
Super clear and polite.
Yeah, and it even highlights the importance of using "I'd like to" instead of just "I want." Sounds a bit nicer.
More polite for sure.
Makes a difference.
Okay, so then the person selling the ticket asks, sure, do you want a one-way or a return ticket? Important question.
One way versus return. I gotta know the difference.
Yeah, one way is for just going to a place. Right?
Yeah.
And a return ticket is for going and then coming back.
A round trip, basically.
Exactly. So in the guide, the traveler wants a one-way ticket.
Sounds like they're planning to stay in Delhi for a while.
Maybe they're starting a big adventure. Who knows?
That's the fun part. And this section of the guide is all about giving you the tools to plan your own trip.
Yeah, it's super practical.
All right, so next, the ticket seller asks, for which date?
Gotta know when you want to travel.
It's best to be prepared, you know? Have your destination in mind, know what kind of ticket you need, and then, of course, the date. Makes sense. The traveler replies with, this Friday. Sounds like a weekend getaway.
Little escape.
Nice. And it's so simple, you know, when it comes to telling them the date. Just say, this Friday, next Tuesday, or even tomorrow, whatever works.
Then keep it simple.
All right, so the ticket's ready. The ticket seller says, okay, your ticket is confirmed. Here you go.
Love that. Here you go. Basically means all set.
Yeah, it wraps things up nicely, signals that everything's good to go.
Super friendly way to end the interaction. So, wow, we've covered a lot in this deep dive. Greetings, asking for help, ordering food, shopping, even talking to the doctor.
And don't forget chatting with friends and, of course, booking that all-important travel ticket.
It's amazing how many situations this guide covers, and it's all using those essential English phrases.
Yeah, it's all about giving you the tools to practice and get better at speaking.
And remember, the best way to learn is by doing. Don't be afraid to try out these phrases in real-life conversations.
Exactly. It's okay to make mistakes. That's how you learn. Just try your best and have fun with it.
So we've talked about a lot of different situations where you might need to use English, but there's so much more out there.
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, learning a new language, it really never ends, you know?
Right. There are always new words to learn, new ways to say things, new situations to navigate.
Absolutely.
So what are some other things you want to be able to say in English? Think about the places you go, the people you meet.
Yeah, what are those conversations you want to have?
Maybe it's talking to people at work, or maybe it's like how to strike up a conversation at a party.
Ooh, yeah. Or how about like having deeper conversations with your English-speaking friends?
Yes, so many possibilities.
And you know, there are so many resources available to help you learn those things.
Oh, totally. We talked about teachers, online classes, but have you ever considered a language partner?
A language partner.
Yeah, it's basically someone who speaks English and wants to learn your language.
Oh, that's cool.
So you can kind of help each other out.
I like that.
It's a win-win. But no matter how you choose to learn, the most important thing is to just keep practicing.
Practice, practice, practice. It's how you get better.
Exactly. Even if you just take small steps every day, it really does add up over time.
It's like anything you want to get good at. The more you do it, the more natural it becomes.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So keep talking, keep listening, and keep learning. And remember, have fun while you're doing it.
That's the most important thing. Learning a new language should be enjoyable, not a chore.
Totally agree. All right, everyone, that's a wrap for today's deep dive.
We hope you found it useful and picked up some helpful tips for those everyday English conversations.
We'll be back next week with a brand new topic. But until then, happy learning, everyone.
See you next time.
Hey, everybody, and welcome to this deep dive. Today, we're going to help you create a fantastic welcome episode for your YouTube channel, English Titans. That's right, we're talking about teaching English as a second language.
Yeah, specifically to beginners, which can be a really fun challenge.
Exactly. And our source material today is packed with ideas about how to make learning fun and effective. So let's dive right in. One of the things that really jumped out at me was this idea of using ChatGPT for pretty much everything.
Oh yeah, ChatGPT is like the Swiss Army knife of language learning these days.
Right. I mean, it's everywhere. But how do we actually use it in a way that helps someone learn English? The source talks about using it for conversation practice.
Which is huge because a lot of beginners are nervous to speak out loud, so they can actually practice with ChatGPT anytime.
That makes sense. But is it really enough? I mean, isn't it kind of basic just chatting with a bot?
Well, the source suggests some pretty creative ways to use it. For example, you can use ChatGPT to role-play different situations.
Oh, like what?
Let's say you're at a restaurant. You can practice ordering food or asking for directions with ChatGPT.
So it's like having a virtual practice buddy.
Exactly. Yeah. And you can do it over and over again until you feel comfortable.
I like that. And what about grammar? I know a lot of learners struggle with that.
Well, ChatGPT can be a lifesaver for grammar. You can ask it to explain specific grammar points.
So it's like having a grammar tutor on demand.
Pretty much. Yeah. You can even have it correct sentences you write.
Wow, that's pretty cool. This is starting to sound less like a gimmick and more like a serious learning tool.
Right. And it doesn't stop there. The source also talks about using ChatGPT for exam preparation.
Whoa, really? Can it actually help with something like the IELTS?
It can definitely play a role. You can use ChatGPT to familiarize yourself with the types of questions you'll see on the exam.
So it's like a practice test generator.
Yeah, and it can even give you sample answers to study.
That's amazing. Especially for learners who might not be able to afford expensive test prep courses.
Exactly. It makes quality English learning much more accessible. So we've got conversation practice grammar help exam prep, but let's not forget the fun factor.
Right. How do we make learning English with ChatGPT enjoyable, especially in that welcome episode?
Well, remember those role-playing scenarios we talked about? You can use ChatGPT to create fun stories around those situations.
Oh, I see. So instead of just practicing dry phrases, you're actually creating a narrative.
Exactly. And you can even involve your viewers.
How so?
You can ask them to guess what happens next or suggest different ways to respond.
That's a great way to keep them engaged.
Right. It turns learning into a game. And speaking of storytelling, the source also suggests using ChatGPT to generate different story ideas.
So if you're feeling stuck, you can ask ChatGPT to give you some inspiration.
Exactly. It's like having a brainstorming partner.
This is awesome. We've got conversation practice, grammar, help exam prep, storytelling. But the source also emphasizes going beyond ChatGPT.
Yes, ChatGPT is a fantastic tool, but it's not the only way to learn English.
Right. It's about making English part of your life.
Exactly. So encourage your viewers to watch movies, listen to music, read books.
And that's where English Titans can really shine.
Each episode can be a bridge to those other resources.
Like what? Give me an example.
You could do an episode about a popular English song. And then you could challenge your viewers to write their own verse using ChatGPT.
That's a great idea. It's about creating a whole learning ecosystem.
Exactly. Where different elements work together to reinforce and expand your knowledge.
Now let's circle back to that welcome episode.
Sure.
The source mentions the idea of translating content for a wider audience.
Yeah, catering to different language groups like Hindi speakers.
What do you think about that?
I think it's brilliant. English Titans could definitely incorporate translations, maybe through subtitles or dedicated segments.
That would make the channel accessible to so many more people.
And it shows that you're really committed to helping everyone learn English.
What else does the source say about tailoring the experience to viewers' needs?
Well, it suggests using ChatGPT to create personalized study plans.
Oh, wow. So each viewer could have a custom plan based on their level and goals.
Exactly. Imagine if English Titans had its own study plan that viewers could follow along with.
That would be incredible. It's like having a virtual English teacher guiding you every step of the way.
And it would keep them coming back for more.
I love it. There's so much to unpack here.
Yeah.
We're just scratching the surface of what ChatGPT can do for language learning.
You know what else is interesting? The source talks about using ChatGPT for something as simple as finding synonyms.
Okay. How does that help with language learning?
Well, think about it. Instead of just looking up words in a dictionary, you can ask ChatGPT for synonyms in specific contexts.
Give me an example.
Let's say you're writing a story and you keep using the word happy. You could ask ChatGPT, give me synonyms for happy that describe someone feeling excited.
So you get more nuanced and interesting words to use.
Exactly. It helps you expand your vocabulary in a more natural way.
I see. And the source also mentions using ChatGPT for games.
Oh yeah, games are a great way to learn. And ChatGPT can make them even more interactive.
Like what kind of games?
Well, you can play things like Hangman or vocabulary quizzes with ChatGPT.
That sounds fun. I bet beginners would love that.
Exactly. And it's a great way to sneak in some learning without it feeling like work.
I like that approach.
Yeah.
Make it fun and engaging.
Right. And the source even talks about using ChatGPT to tell jokes.
Really? Can ChatGPT be funny?
Well, humor is subjective, but it can definitely try. And you know what?
What?
Even if the jokes aren't that funny, Just the act of trying to understand them can help you learn about the nuances of the language.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've got synonyms, games, jokes. What about storytelling? We talked about that earlier.
Yeah, let's dig a little deeper into that. ChatGPT can be a great tool for brainstorming story ideas.
So if you have a basic concept, but you're stuck on the details.
Exactly. You can ask ChatGPT to help you flesh out the story.
Give me an example.
Let's say you want to write a story about a cat who travels to the moon.
Okay.
You could ask ChatGPT for some ideas, and it might come up with all sorts of crazy scenarios.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
It's the pressure off.
And it can help you get your creative juices flowing.
But what about the actual writing? Can ChatGPT actually help you write a story?
It can definitely assist. The source suggests using it for things like generating dialogue, describing characters, creating different settings.
So it's like having a co-writer.
Kind of. But remember, ChatGPT is just a tool. You still need to bring your own creativity and voice to the story.
That makes sense. It's about using ChatGPT as a starting point, not a replacement for your own imagination.
Exactly. Okay, so we've covered storytelling. Now, what about pronunciation? I know that's a big challenge for a lot of learners.
Yeah. How can ChatGPT help with that?
Well, while ChatGPT can't actually speak, it can break down words phonetically.
So it can show you the different sounds that make up a word.
Exactly. You could ask ChatGPT, how do you pronounce the word comfortable? And it might give you a phonetic breakdown.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's helpful. But it's still not the same as hearing the word pronounced correctly.
You're right. And that's why it's important to combine ChatGPT with other resources, like audio dictionaries or pronunciation videos.
So it's about using a variety of tools to improve your pronunciation.
Exactly. Now let's talk about something really important, audience engagement.
Right. How can we use ChatGPT to connect with viewers and keep them coming back for more?
Well, the source suggests using ChatGPT to create interactive polls or quizzes.
Ooh, I like that. You could pose a grammar question or vocabulary challenge.
And then ChatGPT could collect and display the viewer's answers in real time.
That would be fun and engaging.
Right. It's a great way to make learning more interactive.
And what about using ChatGPT to moderate comments?
That's a great idea. It could even help respond to viewers' questions.
So it's like having a virtual assistant for your channel.
Exactly. It frees up more time for you to focus on creating great content.
I love it.
Yeah.
But with all these possibilities, it's important to remember to keep things simple.
Especially in that welcome video. You don't want to overwhelm viewers.
So what are the key messages that English Titans should focus on in its welcome episode?
Well, the source emphasizes the importance of clearly stating the channel's purpose and target audience.
So basically letting viewers know what they can expect from the channel.
Exactly. And why they should subscribe.
Right. It's like setting the stage and giving viewers a roadmap.
And don't forget to inject some personality into it. Let viewers see your passion for English.
Okay, so clear purpose, target audience, personality. What else?
A strong call to action. What do you want viewers to do after watching the video?
Well, I want them to subscribe, like the video, leave a comment.
Tell them that. Encourage them to engage with your content.
Okay, so it's about using ChatGPT not just for language learning, but also for the strategic elements of running a YouTube channel.
Exactly. It's about leveraging technology to enhance every aspect of your channel.
This is fantastic. We've covered so much ground in this deep dive.
And we're just getting started. There's so much more to explore with ChatGPT.
All right, before we wrap up this part, I want to circle back to mindset. The source talks about the importance of having the right attitude towards language learning.
Absolutely. Learning a language can be challenging, but it's important to approach it with a positive and resilient mindset.
But how do you actually do that?
Well, the source recommends celebrating your progress no matter how small.
That's a good point. It's easy to focus on what you haven't mastered yet.
Right. But it's important to acknowledge how far you've come.
And what about mistakes? Everyone makes mistakes when they're learning a language.
The source says to embrace mistakes as part of the learning process.
So don't be afraid to make mistakes.
Exactly. See them as opportunities for improvement.
I like that. And lastly, the source emphasizes the importance of finding joy in the learning journey.
If you're not enjoying it, you're less likely to stick with it.
So make it fun. Find ways to make language learning engaging.
Exactly. And that's where English Titans can really make a difference.
Wow, we've covered so much in this deep dive. It's like a masterclass in using ChatGPT for language learning.
And channel growth, too. Don't forget about that.
Right. So many ideas. I feel like I need a notebook just to keep track of everything.
Well, if you had to pick just one key takeaway, what would it be?
That's tough. But I think it would be to make it personal. You know? Let your personality shine through in your content.
That's a good one. The source definitely emphasizes that. Whether it's the welcome episode or any other video on English Titans, it needs to feel authentic.
Okay, so how do I actually do that? How do I make my welcome video feel personal?
The source suggests starting with a personal anecdote, something relatable that connects you to the experience of learning English.
Like what? Give me an example.
You could share a story about your own struggles with learning English, or a funny moment that happened to you because of a language barrier.
Ah, I see. So it's about showing your viewers that you've been in their shoes.
Exactly. It makes you more relatable and approachable.
And the source also talks about being upfront about your teaching style and the types of content viewers can expect on your channel.
Right. Are you going to focus on grammar, vocabulary, conversation practice? Let your viewers know what they're signing up for.
So they can decide if your channel is the right fit for them.
Exactly. It's all about transparency and setting clear expectations.
Okay, so we've got personal anecdotes, a clear channel description. What else is important for a strong welcome video?
Visuals. Don't forget about visuals. YouTube is a visual platform.
Right, so I need to use images, graphics, maybe even some animation.
Exactly. Make it visually appealing and engaging. And don't underestimate the power of music, too.
Oh, yeah. A catchy intro tune or some background music can really set the mood.
Exactly. Okay, so personal anecdotes, clear description, visuals, music, anything else?
What about a call to action?
Yes. The source is very clear about this. End your welcome video with a strong call to action.
So tell them to subscribe, like the video, leave a comment.
Exactly. Make it clear what you want them to do.
And most importantly, make them feel excited about learning English.
Exactly. Well, I think we've covered just about everything.
This has been an amazing deep dive. So many great ideas for creating a fantastic welcome episode for English Titans.
And remember, this is just the beginning. The world of language learning with AI is constantly evolving, so keep experimenting, keep learning, and most importantly, have fun.
That's right. And to all you aspiring English Titans out there, we can't wait to see what you create. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive, and we'll see you next time. Hey everybody, welcome back. You know, I was thinking about this the other day. It's funny how sometimes you can understand English. Like you can listen to someone talking, you're like, oh yeah, I totally get it. But then when it's your turn to talk, it's like, whoa, where do I even begin?
Right.
It can be so frustrating. Like you know all the words in your head, but they just won't come out right.
Yeah, exactly. And it can feel like a huge roadblock.
Huge roadblock.
Especially, when you're trying to have a conversation with someone or, like you said, express yourself.
Totally. So today we're going to dive deep into some really practical strategies.
Yes.
For speaking English with more confidence and fluency.
I love it.
We found some really cool advice from an expert source.
Yeah, this source is amazing.
That goes way beyond the typical language learning tips.
Yes.
Like just memorizing vocabulary lists and stuff like that.
Yeah, it's like everyone says, oh, just memorize more words, but it's like...
It doesn't quite work that way.
It doesn't work that way.
Yeah. Right, so one of the things that really stood out to me from this expert is the idea of immersing yourself in spoken English as much as possible.
Oh, I love that.
Like surrounding yourself with the language, even when you're not actively studying.
Yeah, it's like creating an English-speaking environment wherever you go.
Exactly.
Even if it's just in your own head.
Totally. So what are some ways that people can do that?
Well, you're already doing one of them right now. Listening.
Sue us.
Yes. To this deep dive, you're immersing yourself in English.
That's true. I guess we don't always think about it that way, but yeah.
Right. But it goes way beyond just, listening to a podcast.
Yeah. What else can people do?
Oh, there are so many things. You can watch YouTube videos.
Oh, yeah.
Movies.
Especially with subtitles on at first.
Yes, subtitles can be super helpful.
Yeah, until you get more comfortable.
TV shows.
I love watching TV shows in English.
Me too. It's a great way to learn new vocabulary and just hear how native speakers actually talk.
Yeah, because it's so different from like textbook English.
Oh, absolutely.
So you're saying that it's not enough to just like learn the grammar rules and memorize vocabulary words?
No, not at all. You have to hear how the language is actually used in context.
And get a feel for the rhythm and the flow.
Exactly.
It's like learning to dance.
Ooh, I like that analogy.
You can't just learn the steps, you have to feel the music.
Yes. You have to let your body move with the rhythm.
I love it.
So one technique that this expert source really emphasizes is called shadowing.
Shadowing? I've heard of that.
Have you?
Yeah, it sounds kind of cool.
It is.
What is shadowing exactly?
So basically, it's like mimicking a native speaker.
Oh, like copying them?
Yeah. You listen to them and you try to repeat exactly what they're saying.
Like their pronunciation and everything?
It's their pronunciation, their intonation, their rhythm, everything.
So it's like you're their shadow speaking right along with them.
Exactly. You got it.
That sounds kind of fun, actually.
It is.
Like a game almost.
Yeah, and it's a really effective way to improve your pronunciation and fluency. Well, when you're shadowing, you're not just focusing on the words themselves. You're also paying attention to how those words are spoken.
So it's like you're training your mouth to make those sounds.
Right, and your ears to hear them.
Makes sense.
It helps you internalize the natural flow of the language.
I see.
Which makes your own speech sound more fluent and more natural.
Yeah, I can definitely see how that would be helpful.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so we've got immersion through listening and shadowing.
Yes.
But what about actually speaking ourselves? Like, getting our mouths moving.
Right.
And practicing those sounds.
That's the key.
But it can be kind of scary to actually speak out loud.
Especially when you're first starting out.
Totally. It's like all of a sudden the spotlight is on you.
Yeah.
You're like, oh, no, what do I do?
Yeah, that fear of making mistakes can be really paralyzing.
Absolutely. So what's the best way to overcome that fear?
Well, this expert source has a really interesting suggestion, and it might sound a little strange at first.
Okay. I'm intrigued.
Talk to yourself.
Why, really? Like out loud?
Yes, out loud, like you're having a conversation with someone.
But I'm alone.
Yeah.
I don't know about that. I think my family might start to worry.
I know it sounds a little weird, but trust me, it's incredibly effective.
Okay, I'm willing to try anything.
So basically what you do is you just start talking about anything.
Anything?
Anything.
Like what?
Like, describe your day.
Okay.
Narrate what you're doing. Talk about a topic that interests you.
I see.
Anything to get those vocal cords working and those sentences flowing.
So basically just pretend I'm having a conversation with someone, but thus someone is me.
Exactly. And here's a tip to make it even easier. Start with familiar topics.
Okay, good idea.
Things you're already comfortable with.
Yeah, like what?
Like your hobbies, your job,
Okay.
your family,
My cat.
your cat. Exactly.
That makes sense. I guess if I'm talking about something I already know a lot about,
That's right.
then I don't have to worry so much about finding the right words.
Exactly. It takes the pressure off.
That's a great tip.
And you know what another great tip is?
Yeah.
Record yourself.
Oh, that's a good one.
Yeah, listening back to your recordings can be so helpful.
It's kind of scary, though.
I know, but it's so worth it.
Why? What do you learn from listening to yourself?
Well, first of all, it can reveal areas for improvement that you might not notice otherwise.
Like what?
Like, maybe you're pronouncing a certain word wrong.
Oh, yeah.
Or maybe your sentences are a little choppy.
I can see that.
You can also hear if you're speaking too fast or too slow.
I definitely speak too fast sometimes.
A lot of people do.
And it's hard to tell when you're in the moment.
Right.
But when you listen back to the recording, it's like, whoa, slow down.
Exactly. So yeah, recording yourself is like having your own personal language coach.
I like that. Right in your pocket. That's awesome. And you can even compare older recordings with newer ones
Oh yeah, that's a good one.
to see how much you've improved.
Yeah, it's so motivating to hear that progress.
It's like, wow, I actually sound better now.
Exactly.
That's really cool. But, as much as I love practicing on my own,
Yeah.
I do think there's something special about speaking with real people, too.
Oh, absolutely.
Like, having a back and forth conversation.
Right.
And learning from each other.
And getting that real world experience.
Exactly. So what are some ways that people can find conversation partners?
Well, there are a lot of great resources out there.
Like what?
Have you ever heard of language exchange platforms?
I've heard of them, but I'm not really sure how they work.
Okay, so basically they're websites and apps that connect you with native English speakers who want to learn your language.
Oh, so it's like a trade?
Yeah, exactly. You help them with your language and they help you with English.
That's so cool.
It's a win-win.
What are some of these platforms?
Some popular ones are HelloTalk, Candom, and italki.
I've heard of italki.
Yeah, it's a great one.
So you can basically just sign up for one of these platforms and find someone who speaks English who wants to learn your native language.
Exactly. And you can chat with them.
Like text chat?
Yeah, text chat, voice call, or even video chat.
Wow, that's amazing.
Whatever you're most comfortable with.
So it's like you're getting a free language tutor.
Kind of.
And you're helping someone else learn your language at the same time.
Exactly.
That's a pretty sweet deal.
It is.
I'm definitely going to check those out.
I think you'll really like them.
Awesome.
It's such a cool concept, right?
It is. I love the idea of like a language exchange, where you're both helping each other out.
Yeah, it's mutually beneficial.
Exactly. But, one thing that I think holds a lot of people back from speaking English is the fear of making mistakes.
Oh, yeah, that's a big one.
Like, you don't want to sound silly or say something wrong.
I totally get it. I used to feel the same way.
Did you?
Oh, yeah. I was so self-conscious about my pronunciation and my grammar.
Really?
I would overthink every sentence before I said it.
I do that too.
So common.
But it just makes it harder to speak fluently.
Exactly. You get so caught up in your head that you lose the flow of the conversation.
And then you end up not speaking at all.
Right. And that's the worst thing you can do.
Yeah, because the more you practice, the better you'll get.
Exactly. And this expert source really emphasizes that point.
Oh, yeah. What do they say?
They say that it's okay to make mistakes.
Oh, I love that.
Everyone makes mistakes.
Especially when you're learning something new.
Exactly. It's part of the process.
So we shouldn't be afraid to make mistakes.
No, not at all. In fact, you should embrace them.
Embrace them.
Yeah, because they're opportunities to learn and grow.
That's a good way to think about it.
It is. So don't let the fear of imperfection hold you back.
From practicing and progressing.
Exactly. Just focus on communicating.
Getting your message across.
Right. And the fluency will come with time and practice.
I love that. So we've talked about immersing ourselves in English.
Yes.
Practicing speaking out loud. And even finding conversation partners.
Right.
What other strategies does this expert source recommend?
Well, here's a really interesting one.
Okay.
Think about specific situations.
Specific situations.
Yeah, like situations where you might need to use English.
Oh, okay, I see.
Like, let's say you're traveling to an English-speaking country. You might need to ask for directions.
Yes.
Or order food at a restaurant.
Oh, yeah, that can be tricky.
Or maybe you just want to have a casual conversation with someone you meet.
Right.
So the idea is to think about those situations ahead of time.
Okay.
And practice what you would say in English.
I like that. So it's like you're preparing for a performance almost.
Kind of. You're rehearsing for real life.
That's cool.
It is. And there are some really amazing AI tools out there.
AI tools, like what?
Like ChatGPT.
Oh, yeah, I've heard of that.
It's amazing.
What is it exactly?
Well, it's basically a chatbot.
Like a robot you can talk to.
Yeah, kind of, but it's really sophisticated.
So you can practice conversations with it.
Exactly. You can tell it, okay, I want to practice ordering food at a restaurant.
And it will act like the waiter.
Yeah, it will ask you what you want to order.
That's so cool.
And you can practice saying things like, I'll have the chicken sandwich, please, or can I get a glass of water?
I love that. It's like having a personal language tutor, but without the pressure.
Right. It's a judgment-free zone.
That's awesome. So we can use AI tools to practice for specific situations.
Yes, and you can even get feedback on your pronunciation and grammar.
Really?
Yeah, some of these tools have built-in speech recognition.
That's amazing.
It is.
So there's really no excuse for not practicing.
No excuse at all. The resources are out there.
Awesome. But sometimes even when I know what I want to say,
yeah,
I get stuck trying to find the right words.
Oh yeah, the vocabulary hurdle.
It's like I know what I want to say in my head, but I just can't seem to translate it into English.
I totally get it. It happens to all of us.
So what's the best way to overcome that?
Well, this expert source has a really interesting tip.
Okay, I'm listening.
Focus on
phrases, like instead of individual words.
Exactly, because in everyday conversation, we don't just string together random words.
That's true.
We use phrases and expressions that flow naturally.
So instead of just memorizing a bunch of vocabulary words, I should be learning how those words are used in actual phrases and expressions.
Exactly.
Okay, that makes sense.
It does. And those vocabulary building apps we talked about earlier?
Like Anki and Quizlet?
Yes. Well, you can use those to learn phrases too.
Oh, really?
Yeah, just create flashcards with common phrases.
Okay.
And practice them regularly.
And then eventually those phrases will just become second nature.
Exactly. You won't even have to think about them.
That's awesome.
It is. And it will make your English sound much more natural.
I love that. So we should be focusing on phrases instead of individual words.
Yes. Phrases are the key to fluency.
Got it.
Yeah.
But sometimes the biggest challenge for me is not the vocabulary.
Oh, what is it then?
It's the mental translation process.
The mental translation process?
Yeah, like I'm constantly translating from my native language to English in my head.
Oh, I see.
And it just slows me down so much.
It's like you're running a race with a translator in tow.
Exactly. And the translator's really slow.
And heavy.
Yes.
Yeah.
So how do we get rid of the translator and just run freely?
Well, this expert source addresses that very issue.
They do.
And they encourage us to do something that might sound really challenging.
Okay, what is it?
Think in English.
Think in English.
Yes.
Without translation.
Whoa. That sounds hard.
It is hard.
How do you even do that?
It takes practice.
But, like, where do you even begin?
We'll start small.
Okay.
Like, try describing your surroundings in English or narrate your actions as you're doing them.
Yeah, I like that.
Like I'm walking to the kitchen or I'm making a cup of coffee.
So just like talk to myself in English. Exactly. And you can even have internal dialogues with yourself in English.
Internal dialogue.
Yeah, like imagine you're having a conversation with someone in your head.
Okay.
But the conversation is in English.
Interesting.
It is. And it's a really effective way to start thinking in English.
So we should be immersing ourselves in English, even in our own thoughts.
Exactly. Make English a part of your daily life.
Even when you're alone.
Yes. The more you expose yourself to the language,
the easier it will become to think in English.
And the more fluent you'll become.
I love it.
Yeah.
But you know, it can be kind of lonely practicing on your own all the time.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Like it'd be nice to have some support from other people who are learning English too.
Absolutely. And this expert source actually recommends finding a community.
A community?
Yeah, like a group of people who are all learning English together.
Oh, that sounds nice.
It is. It's so motivating to connect with other learners.
To share tips and encouragement.
Right. And to practice with each other.
Yeah, because then you don't feel so alone.
Exactly. You're all in it together.
I love that. So how do you find these communities?
Well, there are a lot of great online resources.
Like what?
Websites like Meetup,
okay,
Facebook, and Reddit.
I've heard those.
Yeah, they all have groups and forums dedicated to language learning.
So I can just search for English learning groups.
Exactly. And you'll find tons of people who are eager to connect and practice with you.
That's awesome.
And you know what else is great about online communities?
What?
They often host speaking challenges.
Speaking challenges?
Yeah, like you commit to speaking for a certain amount of time each day.
Oh, interesting.
Or maybe you have to give a short presentation on a specific topic.
I like that. It's like a fun way to push yourself outside of your comfort zone.
Exactly. And it gives you a goal to work towards.
And it's also a great way to get feedback from other learners.
Absolutely. So yeah, online communities can be a really valuable resource.
For support and motivation. I'm definitely going to check those out.
I think you'll really enjoy it.
Awesome. So we've talked about a lot of different strategies for improving our speaking skills.
We have.
But I'm curious to know.
Yeah.
What role does technology play in all of this?
Oh, technology is a game changer.
How so?
Well, for one thing, we've already talked about some amazing apps and AI tools that can help us practice and connect with other learners. But there are also some incredible speech recognition tools out there.
Speech recognition?
Yeah, like those tools that transcribe your voice into text.
Oh, yeah, I've used those before.
They're so cool, right?
Yeah, but I didn't know they could help with speaking.
Oh, they can. Because these tools go beyond just transcription.
Really?
Yeah, they can actually analyze your pronunciation and give you feedback on how to improve.
That's amazing.
It is. So it's like having a pronunciation coach right in your pocket.
Wow. What are some of these tools?
Well, Google Translate has a great speech recognition feature.
Okay.
And there are also some fantastic language learning apps like Duolingo and Babbel.
I've used Duolingo before. Yeah, but I didn't know it had speech recognition.
It does.
I'll have to check that out.
I think you'll be really impressed.
Cool. So technology can really help us with our pronunciation.
Yes, and it can also help us with our fluency.
How so?
Well, some of these tools have exercises where you have to speak for a certain amount of time.
Oh, like those speaking challenges we talked about earlier.
Exactly. But it's like you're challenging yourself against the clock or against the app.
I like that. It's like a game.
It is. And it's a fun way to practice speaking.
Awesome. And, you know, speaking of technology, I've been experimenting with something really fun lately.
Oh, yeah. What's that?
Practicing conversation with AI tools like ChatGPT.
Oh, that's a great idea.
Yeah, it's like having a personal chatbot to practice with.
But without the judgment.
Exactly. I can try out different phrases, experiment with different ways of saying things,
Right.
and just get comfortable with the flow of conversation.
All in a safe and supportive environment.
Exactly. It's a really cool way to practice.
It is.
Yeah.
It can really help to build your confidence.
Yeah, because then when you're talking to a real person, you're not as nervous.
Right, because you've already practiced those conversations in your head.
And you know that you can do it.
Exactly.
I love it. So technology can really be a valuable tool for language learners.
Absolutely. It's like having a whole team of language coaches right at your fingertips.
That's a great way to put it. But you know, all this talk about technology and apps and tools,
Yeah.
it's important to remember that it's not just about the tools.
Right.
It's about the mindset.
Absolutely. The tools can be helpful, but they're not a magic bullet.
You still have to put in the effort.
Exactly. You have to be willing to practice.
To make mistakes.
To learn from them.
Right. And you have to believe in yourself.
Yes. That's so important.
Like, if you don't believe that you can learn English, then you probably won't.
That's true.
But if you have a positive attitude,
yes,
and you're willing to put in the work, then anything is possible.
Absolutely. I totally agree.
Awesome. So it's all about mindset.
And effort.
And practice.
And believing in yourself.
I love it.
Me too. And you know, something else that can really help with that mindset piece is paying attention to your body language.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, because our body language can actually affect how we feel.
Really?
Like if you stand up straight and make eye contact, it can actually make you feel more confident.
I've never thought about that before.
It's true. And this expert source actually recommends practicing speaking in front of a mirror.
Oh, that's a good one.
Yeah, it might feel a little silly at first.
I can imagine.
But it's a really effective way to become more aware of your body language.
So you can see how you come across to others.
Exactly. Like, are you making eye contact? Are you using gestures? Are you smiling?
I see.
All of those things can make a big difference in how confident you appear.
That makes sense.
And when you feel more confident, you're more likely to speak up and engage in conversations.
And make progress.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So yeah, don't be afraid to practice in front of a mirror.
So they're giving yourself a little pep talk.
Exactly.
And you know what else I think is really important?
What's that?
Celebrating our progress.
Oh, yes. That's huge.
Like, it's so easy to get caught up in the pursuit of perfection and to focus on all the things we're still not good at.
Right. We can be so hard on ourselves.
Totally. But it's so important to acknowledge how far we've come.
And to celebrate those small victories along the way.
Exactly. Like maybe you finally mastered that tricky grammar rule.
Yes.
Or you were able to have a conversation with a native speaker without feeling too nervous.
Those are big wins.
They are. And we should celebrate them.
Absolutely. Because those small victories will keep you motivated.
And they'll remind you that you're making progress.
Even when it feels slow.
I love that. So we should celebrate our progress.
Yes. Big time.
Awesome. Well, I think we've covered a lot of ground today. We've talked about immersion shadowing, practicing alone, and with partners using technology, focusing on phrases, thinking in English, building confidence, and celebrating our progress.
Wow, that's a lot.
It is, but it's also important.
It is, because speaking English fluently and confidently is a journey.
Not a destination.
Exactly. It takes time and effort.
And practice.
And patience.
And it's so worth it.
It is. Because when you can speak English confidently, it opens up a whole new world of possibilities.
It does. You can connect with people from all over the world. You can travel with ease.
You can advance your career.
And you can feel more confident in yourself.
Exactly. So yeah, it's a journey worth taking.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive.
It's been a pleasure.
We hope you feel inspired and motivated to keep practicing and improving your English speaking skills.
And remember, the most important thing is to just keep going.
Even when it feels challenging.
Because you can do it.
We believe in you.
And we'll be here to support you every step of the way.
Thanks for listening, everyone, and we'll catch you on our next deep dive. Have you ever felt like learning English is like, well, jumping into the deep end of a pool without knowing how to swim?
It can definitely feel that way, especially when you're bombarded with new words every day.
But what if I told you we could make learning English feel more like a day at the beach? More fun, less like a chore.
That's what we're all about, right? Finding those exciting ways to learn.
Absolutely. And today, we're diving into a story, a real page-turner, that'll teach you some key English vocabulary without even realizing you're learning.
A story. Tell me more. I always think a good story is the best way to pick up a new language.
Me too. So we stumbled upon this English learning podcast, and one episode in particular caught our attention. It's a dialogue, really brings the vocabulary to life, about two friends on a sailboat.
Sounds idyllic so far. Blue skies, open water, the perfect setting for a relaxing chat. What's the catch?
Well, let's just say their peaceful little sail turns into an unforgettable adventure. And that's where the language learning gets really interesting.
An unforgettable adventure, you say? You've piqued my curiosity. Let's set sail and explore this dialogue.
I'm with you. Let's dive right in. Okay, so picture this. Our two friends are out for a sail. Sun is shining. There's a gentle breeze. One of them decides to, and I love this phrase, take a dip.
Take a dip. Classic. It just rolls off the tongue, doesn't it? It's such a simple way to say, go for a quick swim.
Exactly. But remember how we said this sailboat trip takes a bit of a turn?
Ah, yes, the unforgettable adventure. What happens next? Do tell.
Well, our friends enjoying their dip, splashing around, probably admiring the view from the water. Meanwhile, their friends on the sailboat may be lost in thought. And that's when everything changes. Suddenly, we hear this frantic shout, "Anchor the boat!"
Oh, I already have goosebumps. Anchor the boat. You know something's about to go down when you hear those words.
Right. It's not your average request on a leisurely sail, but why anchor? Why is that phrase so important?
Well, for our English learners, anchor is one of those words that pulls double duty. It's both a noun and a verb. Pretty handy, huh? The heavy thing that keeps a boat from drifting, that's an anchor. And the act of tossing that heavy